Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. Again, thank you for being here. We have a pretty filled agenda, so we do want to respect your time and get started. And before we get started, I do want to introduce everybody who is up here. I'll have everybody introduce themselves. I'm Rigo Lara, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. I've been working here with the team since September of 2023 on this project, this initiative. And we're here presenting some final recommendations to the community.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Taylor. I'm with MGT Consulting, and we've been partnering with the district since September of 2023 on this particular initiative. As far as it relates to facility asset management, facility asset management efficiencies.
All right, good evening. My name is Jose Espinosa, and I am the superintendent of the South Bay Union School District. And I'd like to start by just anybody out in Zoom or YouTube. We are having some technical difficulties, but we're going to do our best to stream the meeting so that anybody that's at home that wants to watch is able to watch. So just stay with us. And then I also want to start by thanking the staff and the committee, a community committee made up of staff, parents, and district leadership that has been working together for just about over a year on brainstorming and discussing options to overcome this really huge challenge that our district is faced with. So tonight's agenda, we're going to start with a really short presentation. Like I said, this has been going on for about a year now, a little bit over a year. So we're going to try to not give so much information because the reason why we're here tonight is really to get the public's input on some of the options that we have here. So we'll do a short presentation, and then we're going to do a group input. You guys can see some of the groups around the room. There's going to be staff members at each section. We're going to ask that the public go around and give their input to whatever that option is. The staff that are there are going to be the staff that we're working with the committee, so they're able to answer questions, but they're not going to present the whole, the whole option. They're going to be able to answer questions. During the presentation, you'll hear, what the options were about. So the staff there will be able to answer questions, and then we're going to ask the public to go through and just give us your input at each table. Once we are done doing that, then we're going to do a public comment section that's going to be, we're going to give everybody 1 minute to be able to come up to the podium and give any additional input that they would like to give.
Superintendent, if I can just add, if you'd like to be part of the public input session, there are public input cards in the back. Just make sure to complete those and turn those into us prior to that.
Okay, the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, they set out with a specific purpose. And their purpose was really to assess the facilities and to look at the impacts of declining enrollment in our district. And when I met with the committee, I stressed that declining enrollment is probably one of the biggest challenges that our district as a whole is facing, because that impacts a lot of different things. Specifically, it impacts our funding, and our funding pays for everything that we do, right? So that is a really, really, really huge challenge that we have. Our best hope for that committee, that again was made up of community members, district community members, Our best hope was that we could come together as a community and really brainstorm and come up with different options to meet our challenge of declining enrollment. That was our best hope. Now, we understand that that's a big ask, because generally when you lose roughly 50% of your student population, you can't keep the same amount of schools that you've had when you had that other 50%, right? And it's not 50, it's under that, but roughly. So that's big, right? Because we understand that any repurposing of a school community is very difficult on communities, on students, on staff, on everyone in our district. We understand that that is a really big ask. But we hope that we also understand that doing nothing is also a huge impact on that same community that we're talking about. If we do nothing, I believe we will be in a much worse place, right? Because we're not managing our district in a fiscally responsible manner. And the state of California does not think that is a good way to manage a school district, right? So we are really in this really tough situation. And again, we're hoping that we can come together as a district community to work together to solve that. I will now turn it over to Michael, who will lead us through the next couple of slides.
Declining enrollment. Let me just make a couple comments about this whole issue of declining enrollment. South Bay is not the only district facing this particular issue. A lot of districts throughout the state of California are experiencing declining enrollment. It's a statewide issue. South Bay has been very proactive in getting in front of this situation and to come up with potential solutions. I think it's very important to recognize no decisions have been made. We are just sharing information with the community that the committee has come up with so far. And we also understand this is a difficult subject. This is not easy. We also understand that there are a lot of passions and a lot of energy around an initiative like this. So again, no decisions have been made, and we're here to receive your input. So declining enrollment, it is real. It's not anecdotal. It's not something that is made up. It is real. The slide that you see in front of you is the district's decline in enrollment over the last 14, 15 years. As you can see, the enrollment for the district has declined by over 40%. That's a pretty big drop. And so you still have the same number of schools that you had 14, 15 years ago, but you have almost 50% less students. So what can we do to mitigate the impact of that declining enrollment? As we looked at the district and the different student populations by school, we noticed that a majority of the decline in enrollment is happening in the middle part of the district. Hence, you see that circle? That's where a majority of the decline in enrollment has happened. So just a little bit about process. This has been a very lengthy process. Usually it takes us about 6 to 7 months to go through the process. But as you look at the timeline, it's taken us almost a year and a half. And the reason it's taken us a year and a half is because we've had 2 versions of the advisory committee. And I'm going to talk about the first version, and Mr. Rigo-Lager will talk about the second version. So the way we like to break this up is we like to break it up into phases. The first phase is, let's look at the data. Is the data real? All the data that you will see comes from the California Department of Education. Enrollment data, the district's enrollment data. So in phase one, we talk about the data. We talk about setting up the superintendent's advisory committee, making sure that we have a good cross representation of the community participating in the committee. We also want to make sure that we establish a good communication strategy. It's important to let people know what's happening. And so the district has set up a web page. We've had numerous, about a year ago, we had 3 town hall meetings, and we try to communicate as often and as effectively as we possibly can. The first Superintendent's Advisory Committee met 7 times. 7 times before it came to the board with its final recommendations. Just a little bit about the committee and what the committee actually did. The committee sat down and went over the data that they were presented, and they looked at a number of different options as to what was possible as far as consolidating or potentially closing schools. There was robust discussion among the groups or among the committee, and there was a lot of back and forth. And we had a good dialogue, and the first committee came up with 3 recommendations, and I'll share those with you in just a moment. Well, I'll share those with you right now. Okay, so the results of the first committee, which presented to the Board of Education in May of last year. The first recommendation was close Central. The second recommendation was Nestor Language Academy moves to Mendoza, and the kids and staff from Mendoza get distributed to adjacent schools. Option number 3, or recommendation number 3, was Nestor Language Academy and Mendoza swap sites. Those were the 3 recommendations. Those recommendations essentially were presented to the community in 3 town hall meetings. 3 town hall meetings. And we got a lot of good input as to what could have been done better, as to how certain parts of the community felt about the recommendation. So the district really tried to get as much input from the community as possible, hence the 3 town hall meetings. And then on May 20th of last year, all of this information was presented to the Board of Education in a study session. So we had a special board meeting just on this particular issue. And the board came back with the following recommendation. Thank you, Superintendent Espinoza. Thank you, committee. We would like you to take some more time to reassess your recommendations. At that particular meeting, Superintendent Espinoza provided an alternative proposal, a different way of looking at school consolidation, facility asset management. So the first recommendations the board received and essentially said, thank you very much, take another look at this. And when you look at it, look at that alternative proposal that the superintendent has presented. So we came to a full stop to reassess, and we established an adjusted superintendent's advisory committee. And one of the things that we wanted to do and really pushed for was making sure that we had robust parent representation. Robust parent representation. So that was the first committee that made its findings and presented to the Board of Education on May 20th of last year. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Superintendent Espinoza and have him explain to you the tenets of that alternative proposal.
All right, thank you. And I think this is one of the really important understandings that we can have as a community. An advisory committee is just that. right? They are looking at whatever challenge that we're trying to study, to learn about, and then they're giving their input, their advice, or their experiences about however they feel about that particular challenge. In this situation, it was really around the options that were presented. When we then took those to the town halls, and we had the community, the larger community, the community at large, we had them give us input. We took the input that was given at those town halls, plus what the committee had suggested, and then we came with a, we called it an alternative proposal, but it was really something of putting everything together. And that proposal really looked at three different things. Number one, it looked at declining enrollment. So what is it that we need? How many schools do we need for the students that we serve, right? We may not have 10,000 students anymore, but we have at least 5,000. And so how many school sites do we need to match the students that we're serving? So it looked at declining enrollment. The next thing that it looked at was academics. One of the things that we heard was, well, the reason that we're declining in enrollment is because our academics are not where we would like them to be, right? That's one of the reasons that we heard. So what this proposal did was really look at academics to say, okay, so what is it that we really want to focus on? In this alternative proposal, we really looked at literacy, right? If we wanted to focus on early literacy, this was one way of doing that. And the way that we wanted to do that was to split the schools, kind of sister schools, if you will. Some schools were going to be TK to 3, and other schools were going to be 4, 5, 6, right? With the idea that the TK to 3 schools, we would really be able to focus professional development and, you know, just everything around early literacy to ensure that our students were reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. Students reading on grade level at the end of 3rd grade is supported in research. It is something that the state tracks. It is a big issue. It's a big thing. So we wanted to try to create a system that was going to maximize our opportunity to ensure that all students were reading on grade level. The other thing we heard at the town halls was that, you know, how come you're only looking at reducing? How come you're not looking at how we're attracting students to our district? And so what we did in this alternative proposal was we looked at some of the special programs we already have. For example, we have dual language programs in our district. At Mendoza, we have a great instrumental program. If you have not heard those students play, I encourage you to hear them play. They're amazing. And then at Bayside, we do have it's Bayside STEAM Academy. So we have that program there. So what we wanted to do is, how do we build these programs? Because I agree, we need to focus on how do we attract and maintain students here in our district. We know that we have roughly about 250 students that live within our district boundaries that choose to go to other schools for multiple reasons, right? So we agree we want to attract and retain. So what we did is, on the east side of the district, where language programs are already there, we thought that the east side of the district would focus on language programs. In the middle of the district, where Mendoza is, because instrumental music is already there, we thought the middle part of the district could focus on performing arts. And, you know, we didn't identify exactly what that would look like, but it would be a performing arts focus. And we thought that the west side of the district, because STEAM's already here, there's a school already here focusing in that area, we thought that all the schools in the west side of the district would focus on environmental science. And environmental science is a STEAM pathway. And given that that we have a big environmental concern in our area, we thought that environmental science is very appropriate, right? It's impacting our community. So we figured that'd be a good area to focus on. And again, the idea of this concept was that we were going to take the input from everyone and then present an entire plan on what that might look like together as a plan. And the motivation was, and I've shared this with the committee, and I've shared this every time I talk about this, we can focus on the negative side of this, which is we've lost students. We will have to repurpose or close some schools. We can stay focused on that. But if you stay focused on the negative side, that's all you're going to see. Or the opportunity is we can look at the 5,000 students that we still have here in our district and figure out how can we redefine success for those students, and how can we create a district that is thriving and that is meeting the needs of the community. And so really this concept is a reflection of that idea, right? We're not just looking at, closing schools. We're looking at what opportunities do we have in front of us? And I know that's a really hard thing to look at. But again, if we continue to focus on just the negative, that's the only thing that we're going to see, right? If we understand the challenge and we look at the opportunities, then we're able to look at a lot of different options that we have in front of us.
So after the board directed the committee to return to continue to analyze the concept, we did some work, like Michael mentioned, to recruit more families. We realized that during the first committee phase, we only had about 3 consistent family members attending. So over the next few months, we made sure that we had more parent participation during the second phase of the committee. So you can see there that we had 12 total parent members, who are the highest group out of all the members, for a total of 42 voting members. We also had guests in attendance during that time. Principals, directors, our SWATA president was also in attendance. And by the second phase, we also had 2 board members who were consistently in attendance as observers only. And before I move forward, I actually do want to make sure I thank all committee members, if some of them may be here, who participated over the last 18 months. They attended many late evenings. There were some passionate conversations. They weren't easy conversations to have, but they were respectful. They invested their time, their energy, and their input has been very valuable during this process. So I do want to take time to ensure that I thank everybody who participated. Process, same as the first one, really looking at data, revisiting data, looking at new information, because over a period of time, the information does change. We continue to look at enrollment, facilities. We wanted to make sure that whatever community may be affected in the future, that transportation was feasible, and that we are able to transport children if we were to have to consolidate any schools. And the discussions were similar. We had small groups. They discussed. They had several prompts to talk about and then share out as a committee to everybody else. Again, we continued to post everything on our website. During board meetings, we provided updates to the board and the public not necessarily after each meeting, but definitely after several meetings, we made sure to update the community. So after the first 4 meetings, we decided to then finally come closer to a conclusion, to some final recommendations. And the way that we did that is we formed 4 groups, the 4 groups that you see around you right now. And we had those committee members just focus on one specific aspect of the alternative concept. And they focused on 4 questions. Those 4 questions being the ones you see in front of you. The one around declining enrollment was, how many schools does South Bay need? in the next 5+ years. Which schools should remain and which ones should be consolidated or closed? That was one group. The second group focused on the grade level configuration option, and thinking about if it's not an option, we don't want to just say, no, we're not going to do that, but then what do we do? And so what other initiatives can the district implement to improve student achievement and literacy? Group 3, what are the specialized programs that the district should focus on? So the concept has 3 programs there. Are there other programs that you would like for us to focus as a district? And number 4 is the focus on Nestor. And for those who do not know, Nestor Language Academy is a school with over 1,000 students, but they have a challenge with their facilities. They have over 30+ portables, which are aging and need replacement and a lot of maintenance. So thinking forward and trying to create a plan to address those needs, Nestor was part of this discussion throughout the process. So this group focused on if Nestor was not to be split and go to Berry, then what is the plan to address the needs of Nestor Language Academy, its facility needs? So those were the 4 questions. By December, the groups were focusing on those questions. And then when we returned back in February, we really looked at the sharing out those recommendations and having a final vote. Now, when the committee has this final vote, it's not necessarily, it's their final vote, but it's not a final decision. Like we said, no decisions have been made. These are just recommendations. The committee is an advisor. They're in an advisory role to the superintendent and the board. Still requires us to receive your feedback during this time, and then the superintendent taking all that feedback and then presenting to the board. So what I'm going to do now is just share those results. And I'll talk a little bit about what the questions were that the committee voted on. So remember, we had 4 small groups who had their own recommendations, but the entire committee then decided to vote on each one. So when the question came with, should the following schools close, you can see the results there, with the blue bar being a yes vote and a black bar being a no vote. Central as 29-0, you see that Emory, the committee's recommendation was to close Emory and repurpose it as a district office. And that was the small group's recommendation. The committee then at the time, earlier in the process, was not ready to identify a 3rd school to close. But when they came back in February, they identified Pence as a school. Berry and Sunny Slope were voted on because they're part of the superintendent's alternative concept. So we wanted to make sure we put those schools to a vote as well. And you can see the results in front of you. The second vote around academic achievement recommendations. The vote really was about academic achievement and the specialized programs. And the question was, should we continue to focus on literacy, professional development, the learning that is needed for academic success? And should we postpone any special programs until we really solidify that piece first as a district? Not to say we don't want to do special programs, but let's be really mindful of what we're doing now and continue to do that well before we start doing other things as a district. So the committee really was in favor of that piece. Let's postpone any specialized programs and continue to focus on literacy, the professional development for all of our teachers. The grade level configuration and early literacy focus, you can see the votes there. As far as the specialized programs recommendation, the questions put forth to the committee were, do we, as school sites, identify what programs we may want to focus on, again, through a process and with district support, or do we do the programs as noted in the alternative concept? And you can see there the votes there. The committee really wanted to move forward with, let's hold off, and also let's look at site participation around what programs to focus on. And finally, facilities, Nestor, what to do around the challenges with the Nestor facilities. 4 questions were put forth here. Does Nestor move to another site? Should they use our bond dollars that the community voted on to address the facility needs? Should they downsize 1 class at a time for the next 7 years so that they have less students, so less facility needs in the future? Or should they split and go to Berry and fourth through eighth stay at Nestor. You see the vote there. The committee was most in favor to downsize, slightly in favor of the bond funds being used. But again, the only one that was really not in favor of is to splitting Nestor at this time. So what's next? Just a reminder that no decisions have been made. As you see those votes aren't necessarily what the final recommendations will be. They're just recommendations at this time. And the public, you today will have an opportunity to provide your feedback, to provide your input at each of the 4 sessions. So, and we have a second town hall meeting next week at Nikoloff Elementary. So we're choosing to have 2 total. I mentioned we're gathering input. Your input will be given to the superintendent and to our board of trustees, who will then review it before a final plan comes to the board, most likely in April. We continue to look at the feasibility of any plan that we move forward with. So we have to make sure that whatever plan we bring forth is something that we're able to implement. We have been looking at that, but we need to continue to look at to ensure that it is possible what we're bringing forth to the board. Finally, if once a decision is made, nothing will happen until at the earliest, the 26-27 school year. It takes a lot of planning time to do this. Communities are affected. We need to do a lot of planning around staff and students and our families when it comes to moving forward with something like this. So it would not happen until 26-27. And just as a reminder, every time we have a meeting or present to the board or present to the public, we do post all our materials, all of our minutes, and they all can be found on our website. So I do want to thank you for being here. I know you may have had questions as we presented during your group input sessions. That will be your opportunity to ask those questions. We have mentioned that a facilitator from the committee will be present at each of the groups and will be able to answer any questions that you may have. So in just a moment, we are gonna give that time to you to go to each of the groups. We're gonna give about 30 minutes, but we will be looking at how everyone is doing. If we need more time, we will give you more time. We encourage you to fill out your cards. There are cards at every table. Please make sure to fill those out, turn those in to our facilitator at the table, because we do take that in. We actually type all of those comments up, and we do provide that to the board and to the superintendent. Any final words before we start?
And as you start to finish giving your input, we'll ask that you take a seat again. That way that gives us an idea of when we can start the public comment portion of it, okay? We want to give everybody enough time to give comments, but again, we're going to be kind of monitoring to see when most people are done. That way we can start the public comment session of the night. Thank you.
Now, you may have a preference to start at a certain group, but I promise you have time to go to each group. So if you want to make sure you kind of, wherever you're closer to, you start there. It's pretty lonely on this side, so I encourage some people to come to this corner here. So if our facilitators can make sure to attend to their groups. Again, please, you have the next 30 minutes or so to go and provide your feedback around each of the 4 groups and the results that you saw. Thank you. We're going to wrap up the group input session in about 7 to 8 minutes. So we'll come back and regroup around in about 7 minutes. If you are finished, if you can please have a seat. We'll be starting public comment in 2 minutes. So again, if you are ready, please have a seat. We'll get started with public comment in 2 minutes. So Itzel will be right here in the front if anyone needs translation. Good, I'm good. Gracias. So if we can please have a seat, we're going to begin. Again, everybody, if you can please have a seat, we're about to begin. You can also bring one of your cards with you back to your seat and you can continue to write your comments. We'll be happy to still collect them after the meeting. Careful, careful. We'll just call this, maybe we'll just, where's it? Oh, there he is. Turn on the mic. Okay, thank you so much. In order to hear our public comments, if we can just lower our voices, please. Also, Miss Amy Cooper will be calling those up who filled out a public comment card. If you have not filled one out, right now is your last chance. We see another one coming our way. Thank you so much. Okay, Amy, when you're ready.
I'm going to call 4 people at a time. Please come up to the podium. Sandra Alvarez, Andres Martinez, Gabriela De La Torre, and Brandon Corral.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Alvarez and I'm a teacher at Nestor Language Academy. I guess the biggest part of my concern is really trying to understand why Nestor was included in the facility assets committee. I understand what you have shared with us as to the reasons, but we've had multiple reasons given to us. One of them was that our portables were not in good condition. And an external person came and evaluated them. There is a report that says that our portables are in okay condition. And secondly, reducing our school by one class every year would reduce 7 portables out of 35. I don't see how, and it would take 7 years to do that. I don't see how reducing 7 portables out of 35 that are in so-so condition, would remedy our facilities issue. There are other reasons that have been shared to a few people as to the real reason why the downsizing should occur. And again, those reasons don't make sense either because it would only decrease the portables by 7 in a period of 7 years. So there is some miscommunication with the true reasons why Nestor is being downsized. And I think that the community needs to know that.
Andreas Martinez.
Thank you. So sorry. I don't think we should close Emory down for many reasons. Some parents, actually all of the parents are really kind. All the staff members really kind. All the students really kind. Even academically, we have little small groups that some students will go to train on their academics. Some students will strive socially, but some will not, and all the students will help them there. They're really kind. All of them, they don't have a problem with any students. There's no bullying at that school whatsoever. Thank you.
Gabriela De La Torre.
He's one of my students, by the way. I did not plan to speak tonight, but when I saw 2 of my 28 sitting in the front row, it motivated me to get up here and speak on their behalf. We need to advocate for our students and our community. And Emory has been a central part of my community for a very long time. My own children, who are now fully grown, went to Emory. And so I have been a part of that Emory community for 25 years. So that kind of tells you how old I am. So when we're talking about looking at the positives, like you mentioned earlier, Emory has the highest test scores in ELA in the district, not saying that we are where we need to be. We do need to continue growing, but why would we look at closing a school who's being on the right track and trying to be where we need to be? And we're getting there. We're equivalent with Nestor in math. And then also looking at the programs that we have there. Emory Academy of Global Leadership, building our students' capacity. A lot of our students go on to be ASB members in middle school and high school, and I have so much more to say in this thing as well. Anyways, thank you.
Brandon Corral, then Ian Blake, Leo Corral, and Allison Hoover.
Good afternoon, trustees, superintendent and assistant superintendent alike, I'd like to preface this by saying that Emory Academy is my home school. I might be in middle school, but once an eagle, always an eagle. My reasonings for why we should not close Emory and find other solutions are that Emory Academy is a great school with thriving teachers whose goals are to educate and empower their students and students alike. Emory has many programs to foster community, such as the garden club, the art club, or any other clubs that we have at our school. In conclusion, Emory shouldn't be closed because of its amazing teachers, staff, and students.
Brandon Corral. Oh, my apologies. Ian Blake.
Sorry if I went out of order. Ian Blake, I'm a lifelong resident of Imperial Beach. I attended this district. I went to school here. I do have children in the district, but I want to emphasize that I'm not here to prevent them from having to move schools. The outcomes discussed here will probably not affect them anyways. They'll have moved on by the time all of this shakes out. I'm here because I want this community to flourish and for the neighborhood kids to be able to walk to their neighborhood school like I did, right? I just walked down the street to my neighborhood school. Sadly, well, actually, sorry. Yeah, I want my children to stay in IB. I want my kids to stay here. I want them to want to stay here and to want to send their kids to the school here in town. Sadly, current trends are indicating the opposite is happening. Many of my friends and neighbors have made the decision to send their kids to other districts when they can. As Michael mentioned, with declining enrollments in all districts, nearby school districts have the capacity to take on kids from other districts. And parents with the ability to do this are making that choice. They're not sending their kids here. Enrollment in this district has gone down faster than neighboring districts, and we need to focus on that. Sorry, if I can keep going, I'll be quick.
Thank you.
I can't go on. Give me a minute. To reverse this trend, we must not only consider declining enrollment as it pertains to facility maintenance and budget deficits, we must emphasize and obsess upon the fact that enrollment in this district is declining faster than neighboring districts. We should be highly focused on that statistic. That is the issue. To reverse this trend, my recommendations are focus on fundamentals, core disciplines, and bring up test scores. Parents look at this. People want to buy a house in Imperial Beach, they're going to look at the test scores and they're going to rent a condo in Rancho Penasquitos or something. I've seen it. Do not split campuses by grade level. Not only is this hard on parents, which would not help retention and recruitment, right? It also increases overhead. That's counterintuitive if we're trying to balance the budget and reduce overhead. Be objective. Most importantly, this is really hard for people. I get it. It's emotional, but the district and the board has to be objective and not emotional. That's their job, right? We can be emotional, but they're guiding. They're going to hold our hand through this. They need to be objective and do the right thing. I recommend that the district water its flowers. If schools are excelling, reward and support those schools to do even better. I wasn't really going to say this. I wasn't going to say this, but as Sandoval said, without saying, but we should not downsize schools if there's a wait list. If we're trying to address enrollment in the district, have the ADA funds so we can improve our facilities. Let's try to get a waiting list at every school, right? That's what we want. Again,
Thank you.
and then,
Can you finish up your thought? We want to make sure that it's fair to everybody. So if we just let you keep going, it's not going to be fair to everybody in the room. Thank you.
Leo Corral.
Hello, I am a parent at Emory. I just want to make a couple points, and Ian made actually a lot of great points. But one thing is Emory was recently remodeled and there was bond money already spent at Emory. So now to repurpose Emory as a school office, they would be just wasting more money to remake that into an office. That money should be focused on improving the facilities for the children, not for the administrators. Emory should be the flagship school if they're the leaders in test scores, right? So all the other schools should be modeled after Emory. Emory shouldn't be destroyed. That's their example of what all the other schools should be like. So I'll keep it short. And also the traffic element. Emory doesn't have a problem with traffic. It's the other schools like Nestor, the Language Academy, IB Charter, Mendoza. Sorry, excuse me. Emory actually works the way the pickups and drop-offs, everything flows perfectly in the morning. Thank you.
Allison Hoover, followed by Orion Brohammer, Jeanette Sanchez, and Eugene Narciso.
So I want to start out by saying, how much do you make for that nice watch there, sir? We're paying a lot of money for this consultant, $400,000 a year. How much are you making, sir? You make more than the effing governor, and I'm not going to use bad words, but I am hot. I am actually, that little boy right there, he is in first grade. He has third grade literacy. He's been reading at a first grade level since TK. You guys want to talk about closing a school that has the best test scores, the best attendance, amazing parental involvement. I was at that school yesterday morning for his talent show. Half these kids were in a talent show. Today, we were there this morning for these little boys and these little girls to be presenting journalism topics and teaching their peers about it, where every grade level came in and had different ways of interacting with other students. It is absolutely ridiculous and asinine that any of you guys would ever think about closing one of the best schools in our district. There's no traffic problem, and all of us live in the same community. I can see somebody walking down the street, and I see my school health nurse person when she's walking her dog. We are a community that can walk to our school. Do not take that away from our children.
Orion Brohammer.
Hi, my name is Orion Brohammer, and I'm part of the South Bay Union School District. And I do not wish for us to close down our schools. And I also want to give a congratulations to it's all right. We have a good school. All the teachers are very nice and very, very, very kind. We do not want to take down our school. Our school is one of the best schools in our district. We do not want anybody to destroy it or take it alive, literally. And I'm a student there, and nobody would want to mess with me. And thank you, everybody.
Oh, gosh. Sorry, stand by. My name is Jeanette Sanchez. I am a teacher at Emory. I am a parent of students at Emory, Nestor alumni. Emory was just recognized as a Purple Star school. As a military spouse, this is something that I look for when I have to move my children to a new school. I'm not the only, there are many in our IB community. When I have to move and I have no control over where my active duty member is stationed, but I do have control as to what school I choose. I, as a parent, the first thing I look at is test scores. Which school is going to be the best academically to support my children? This is important, really, really important. In addition, I look for programs. My husband's gone half the year. Where do my kids enjoy themselves? Where do they have fun? Where do I find community? Emory has been that for myself and for a lot of the kids in this neighborhood, in this community. Don't do that to the military families, please. That's my thought. Thank you.
Eugene Narciso, followed by Marnie Pagua, and Lorena Garcia, and Emmanuel Maldonado.
All right, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Eugene Narciso. I'm here today not just as a concerned community member, but also as a parent. I have 2 daughters currently enrolled in Emory Elementary, and my oldest son, who is on the autism spectrum, graduated from Emory. Thanks to the unwavering support of Emory's dedicated teachers and staff, he thrived in ways that I'd never imagined possible. This school is more than just a building to my family. It is a place of growth, inclusion, and opportunity. The proposed to close Emory and the purpose of the District Facility Center is deeply troubling. How do we justify shutting down a school that has been recently modernized and continues to serve as a student so well? Moving our children to Mendoza may seem like a simple logistical solution, but in reality, it disrupts strong foundation and support to learning that Emory has built for decades. For children like my son, consistency and the familiar environment are the key to success. Emory has proven to be stability for so many families. Closing is disregarding relationship programs and community that has been carefully nurtured here. It is not just a loss of a school, it is a loss of a safe, supportive space where students, especially those with special needs, can thrive. I also question why Emory is with such a recent renovation is being repurposed for district offices instead of continuing to serve its true purpose, educating children. Are they prioritizing administrative convenience over students' success? Is it the district space? There must be an alternative solution that do not come at the cost of children's education. Instead of closing school, we should invest in strategies of attracting and retaining families, strengthening academic programs, enhancing student support, and engaging the community that should be our focus, not shutting down the very institution that makes the district strong. I urge the committee and the Board of Trustees to reconsider this decision. Emory is a place where children and my children, our children, flourish. Let's work together and ensure it remains that way.
I'm a parent at Emory. I was PTA president and now a school site council member. Just to say, almost all my parents and Emory family have spoken why Emory is important to all of us. But just to remind everyone, Emory has been in this area, in this neighborhood since 1885. Okay, we have remodernized. We have modernized just in 2022. Just because we have kept that excellence, and it's evident in our test scores, in the students that we have produced, good future global leaders. That's what we say. Purple Star School, because we support our military family, right? So this is my say. Reconsider a plan to keep Emory open so our families won't be torn apart. Please don't close the top performing school because of biases, may it be political, personal, or bureaucratic. Be objective. If Emory has survived with only having 145 students back then in 1947, please don't be a part of the history of closing it down. Be part of the history of keeping a beacon of good education stay open.
Good evening, Lorena Garcia. I've been in education for 34 years. 22 of those years have been in education or have been as a teacher. Did you know school closures are inequitable because they often disproportionately impact students of color and low-income students? A 2021 study of the Center of Research on Education Outcomes at Stanford University found that low-performing schools with a large percentage of Black and Latino students were more likely to be closed than merely performing schools with smaller Black and Latino student populations. I want to talk about the enrollment, which is always underestimated here, always. Central, there was a bond for Central and Emory. None of that money went to Central. What happened to that money? Mendoza brought so many students to this district because of their VPA. The last superintendent stopped that. All of those students went away. They were well known throughout South Bay. Environmental, you mentioned that, Mr. Superintendent. When you say you wouldn't bring your kids here, doesn't help at all. Declining test scores due to superintendents that don't know what they're doing. You're pushing failing curriculum on the teachers, and we have to teach it to our students. Our district had exceptional schools, not just one, almost all 12 of them. What happened?
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Maldonado, and I would like to recognize first how Emory Academy has been a really big part of my life, and how deep inside of my heart, that's where I've kept the bond with all the teachers and all my family members that have gone there. I'm very upset right now that the district office is talking and making, like, they're just talking about taking down multiple schools. And by that, I think that it would bring a bunch of kids down and a lot of students, teachers, and family members. Please keep our school up and keep it thriving. I would also like to acknowledge that I have been a very good academic role student in my school. Personally, I'm in 6th grade, and last year in 5th grade, I was doing 7th grade math and doing 6th grade reading. I would also like to say everybody in this school should have it be fair, because not everybody deserves wrong, and I believe that everybody deserves right. Thank you.
Jared Doherty, followed by Giovanni Sanchez, followed by Ziva, followed by Gracia Martinez, followed by Fernanda Rios. Jared Doherty,
I wish I don't want Emory to close because the teachers are kind and my friends are really kind. I don't want Emory to close. The breakfast was good. And the lunch was really good too.
Good? Okay. Sorry, that's gonna be hard to follow, with the cuteness. But anyways, we as a district, it shows, it's all public record, so we as a district paid 1,020,000 to MGT. And also, I mean, just to come up with 3 different proposals and to be voted on by staff, parents, town hall meetings, and at the second meeting, we weren't really heard out. At the third meeting, the superintendent came up with a new idea. It was proposed about, what? I'm retracting some of this because I really don't have anything against you. personally. I just don't want it to come out as an attack either. So, but yeah, honestly, some of it just felt like it was a good idea, but it wasn't my idea kind of thing. And that's how it felt like. But also, what happened to the idea for the housing for staff with Sunny Slope? And then also, what's going on with IB Charter? Because as far as I know, that's just being used for ELOP. And if that's all an entire school is being used for, that seems like a waste of facilities. But thank you.
Hello, I'm a parent at Emory, and I just wanted to share that when we first arrived at Emory, it was evident the structure, the commitment, and how the unity that families have at Emory. My son, when he first started in first grade, he was way behind in his reading, and now he even surpassed his grade level. And my daughter too, she started there in kindergarten. And she is thriving there. So really, I want to say that if you are looking for a school that's gonna attract enrollments, this is the school.
Good evening. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I had to since my daughter wasn't here to speak for herself. My name is Fernanda Rios, and I'm a parent with 2 kids at Nestor. I wanted to share that I'm 100% opposed with the splitting of Nestor. We do not have declining enrollment at Nestor. We have a waiting list. Why disrupt the program that is working? The upper grade students are huge role models to our lower grade students. The students at Nestor are family. I see it. I see it with my kids. I see it with their friends. The Nestor family, the students hold high academic achievements, and schools at other districts look at Nestor as an example to follow. I know because I work at another school district that is currently looking at Nestor as an example. Why disrupt a program that has been working for over 20 years? Don't disrupt this. Don't do this to the kids' achievements. Thank you.
Mayra Gutierrez.
Hi, everyone. I'm a mother for 2 children at Nestor. I wish you guys would reconsider about closing a classroom each year. You are taking away the opportunity for families to get advantage of the amazing dual emerging program that we have. I know with downsizing our school, you generate more declining enrollment, and that's what we don't want for our school district because people look for a successful dual emergent program. Thank you.
All right, that was our last public speaker. And I want to take a quick moment just before we close out to acknowledge our amazing students who are here advocating for their schools. I am so impressed by their advocacy and by them just being here tonight. So I want to just thank our students for being here. And lastly, I want to clarify, sometimes when we have public speakers, it makes it sound like these decisions are already made. That's not what has happened. We are here to listen to the community tonight, to have input before the decisions are made. So I just want to just be very clear that at this time, nothing has been decided. We're going to have another town hall meeting. Once that town hall meeting is had, we're going to look at all the input that we're given. And then we're going to come up with a we have to make sure it's feasible, right? We have to do a lot of feasibility studies, and then we're going to come up with a recommendation for the school board to consider. Once the school board considers it and votes on it, that's when the decision will be made. So I just want to make sure, because it sounds like some people think certain decisions are already made. Right now, what we're looking at is what the committee suggested, their recommendations. The whole community gets to give some input on that, or whoever chooses to show up. And then we take all of that input, all of the different input that we had here tonight, and at the next town hall meeting, and we're going to come up with a plan that we could submit to the board. Thank you very much for being here. And I really appreciate all the advocacy. Thank you and good night.